What's up, guys? It's Burglar with a W. I'm Ryan Wergler. And right now, and if I get out of breath, I'm sorry. I'm currently walking down a river trail, heading to the river. But I want to go ahead and talk some more, right, about Grandad lore, right? We're still talking about that, talking about my dad. So for me, it's dad lore. And stuff like that. So a couple things. So let's start by saying this, right? I'm not a big fan of rules, right? And what I mean by that is not that I don't have rules, not that my kids don't have rules, but I don't feel like once you reach a certain age that you should have a bunch of detailed rules that you have to follow. Here, let me do that a little bit. So, nope, because the hat. It's my river rat hat, right? It's kind of disrespectful, in my opinion, that you have to have a whole lot of detailed rules to follow. Because it's like telling somebody, hey, you have no idea how to act, right? So, and I say that because in my family, once my kids reach a certain age, the main rule, right? The main thing, we don't have a whole lot, but the main thing, let me turn it, oh, it's because my glasses are getting dark. Rule number one, and I can tell my kids, hey, remember rule number one? Rule number one is don't be dumb, right? And that encompasses a lot of stuff, right? I don't have to have a whole bunch of detailed stuff because that covers most of it, right? Like if you're about to do something and you think to yourself, hey, later, I might say, wow, that was dumb. You know what, that thing that you're about to do? Here we go, we'll get you a different angle. You probably shouldn't do because it would be dumb, right? That also encompasses how you treat people, right? Love others, treat other people with kindness. Don't be mean, because being mean is dumb, right? And we're gonna mess up. We're all gonna mess up. But kind of where that came from is, well, a lot of it came from my own experiences, and we'll kind of get into that. But some of it too, you know, we're talking about stories that my dad told me about him growing up. There's some things that he did that were, I mean, they were pretty dumb, right? So one of the first ones that comes to mind is, here, I'm gonna spin around a little bit, get you a little 360 behind me there, right? Is one year, I think it was for Christmas, he said a buddy of his got an archery set, right? So bow, some arrows, right? And this was like the 50s. So it wasn't safety tipped. It wasn't anything like that. My little dude got like a for real archery set with arrows and all kinds of stuff, right? Here, let's see this massive log. I'm gonna take a seat on that because I'm tired. And so he got that. And of course, everybody in the neighborhood thought it was the coolest thing. And so they were like, well, what are we gonna do? Well, at the end of their street or somewhere in their neighborhood, there was like an open field or an empty lot or something. So they went down there and he's like, well, we had Target, but it was just Target paper, right? They didn't have anything, or maybe it was like the foam stuff. I don't remember, right? But they had a Target, but not a Target stand. So these kids, right, my dad among them, we're like, you know what? Because when you're a kid, you kind of overestimate your abilities, right? You think, hey, I'm going to be just as good of a shot as whatever. I'm going to be the best at whatever it is, right? And so they were like, hey, we'll just hold the target because surely we're good enough with this arrow that this bow that we've never shot before, that we're not going to miss the target, right? Surely no one's going to miss. Or maybe they thought we are going to miss, but we're going to miss so bad, it doesn't matter if somebody's holding an archery target. And if you have any common sense at all, you already know where this story is going, right? You know exactly what's about to happen. And so my dad said that's what happened, right? So it was his turn to hold the target, and he was holding the target, and the next thing he knows, his leg is on fire, right? And he looks down, and there's an arrow sticking out of his leg. Just an arrow. Just like it sprouted out of his leg. And of course, right, they don't want to go admit that they were dumb. And so they did the dumbest thing you could do in that situation, and they pulled the arrow out, right? So now he's got blood streaming down his leg. Like his mom's not gonna notice, or his dad's not gonna notice that blood is just pouring out of his leg. And he runs home, and of course they get in trouble, and he gets all patched up and everything. But like, that's a clear violation of rule number one. You know, some of these stories, it surprises me. And we were talking today at breakfast that that we're surprised, kind of like our grandparents made it. Like, how did we get here, right? My dad survived, we survived, and then our kids were like, well, they're kind of bubble wrapped, right? Like I mentioned this before about not giving our kids the chance to have adventures, but it's a matter of safety. I think we've realized how dumb we actually were. But then there's also that fear, right? So like my dad didn't want to go running home with an arrow out of his leg because he thought he was going to be in trouble. And that reminded me of another story. They were digging a pit, like a quarry or something, right? Remember, he grew up in Colorado, in his neighborhood or close to his neighborhood. And they were expressly forbidden to play in the pit. So, in clear violation of rule number one, they went and played in the pit. And at some point, my dad fell and tumbled down into the pit and broke his collarbone. But again, you don't want to get in trouble. I can't go tell my mom, right? Can't go tell his mom that hey, that pit you told me not to play in, I was playing in it. And not only was I playing in it, but I hurt myself. Like my collarbone's broken, separated. So he just sucks it up. And it's like 2 days later before his mom realizes that his collarbone is broken, like not attached to the other part, like broken. Not just like a hairline fracture, like broken. I can't imagine not noticing that one of my kids' collarbones is broken, but at the same time, my kids would not put up with it. I don't think my kids could suck up that kind of pain for a couple of days just to deal with it, because they don't want to get in trouble for playing in the pit they weren't supposed to play in, right? So of course now the break is worse, the pain is worse, because now they got to like re-break it and put it back together and do the whole thing, right? So he had to make it worse because he didn't want to be in trouble. And it's just, right? That's a clear violation of rule number one, right? So we've arrived at this don't be dumb honestly, right? It took a couple generations for us to figure it out. And it's not that my dad didn't like tell us never to be dumb, right? Like that's a thing that I'm sure happened. I can remember a couple of times, but like, it's just wild to me because my kids, and I love them, but they stub their toe and sometimes it's the end of the world. And I'm not saying all kids are like that, right? Like, that's not what I'm saying. But it's this idea, I think it points to a bigger thing where like we've created a world where being uncomfortable is as bad as being hurt, right? Or being injured. Whereas like my dad was so scared about getting in trouble that like he literally pulled an arrow out of his leg or walked around with a broken collarbone for a couple of days because he didn't want to admit that he was doing something that was wrong. And I mean, we still do it, right? Kids still do that. You know, my kids will do stuff and then I'll be like, why didn't you tell me? Well, I didn't want to get in trouble. I didn't want to get in trouble. What, man, just let's deal with it, right? But anyway, so that's your dad lore for today. I'm gonna go get in the river and cool off. So yeah, so what do you do when you don't have a target stand for your bow and arrow? Apparently, obviously, you hold the target. And if you break your collarbone doing something dumb, and you don't want to get in trouble for doing the dumb thing that you weren't supposed to do, you just act like your collarbone's not broken. Apparently, is the lesson from that, which is not the actual lesson. The lesson is, you know, maybe think a little bit about things. Just saying. All right, guys. That was Dad Lore with Burglar with a W. Love y'all. We'll talk to you later.